folks, and welcome to the Sunday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt. Benjamin is on his last weekend of shows. I think hopefully by now I've seen it. I don't know. We're planning on going to it this weekend. But after that, he should be back, although I do have some ideas for some future ones that I may have to hold off on having him for now. Anyway, this is a top 5 I had an idea for. I thought it'd be fun. After we talked about the cop involvements, another one I wrote down was involving fire. And we had laughed about this, like everything disastrous, floods, tornadoes, what not can we do? But yeah, I don't have many tornado stories. But I can talk, like I saw a mini, I think it's called a water spout. I don't even think it's called a tornado. But water spouts are when water's rising up it's like a mini tornado in the ocean. And there were a few one day when I was at the beach and my wife's panicking. I was like, it's nothing. But anyway, so I wanted to add water. Fire and water. This will be top 5 moments with fire and water. Some of these stories I believe I have told. So if so, I'm going to kind of move past them a little bit faster than others. But we're doing 2 top 5s here because it's just me. When it's just me, I need 2 top 5s. I think I'm going to do water first since I thought mostly about fire and not much about water here. I will say that my number 5, on all these were easy to list. All of these were easy to list. When I was a kid, back in Forest, Mississippi, once a year, and I don't know when this was, but we just planned it randomly. But once a year, we'd have something, the whole neighborhood. This is back in the 80s, so you knew every kid in the neighborhood. But all the kids would get together, and we decided that whatever weekend it was in the summer was called the Water Wars. And the Water Wars was where, now Super Soakers were not out, or they weren't as popular back then. There was only 3 level Super Soakers when I was a kid. So mainly you had squirt guns. I remember one kid, I think, bought a Super Soaker the last year we played. And I thought, dang, that is cheating. But you have a bunch of squirt guns because your mom would give you them. Small, medium, large guns, shaped like Uzis and whatnot. And pistols and space guns. I loved my space guns, ray guns. And so the rule was you could go all around the neighborhood shooting up kids with your squirt guns. Okay? You could also use water balloons. Water balloons were legal. And on every, I want to say it was street corner, we designated one of the houses to have a hose, a garden hose going. Because 2 kids lived in 2 separate corners of the block, and they wanted to spray garden hose because that's the ultimate Super Soaker, right? So we decided to do that. Now, the goal was just to have fun and shoot on bikes. You'd be on bikes running around the neighborhood. The rules were in the neighborhood, and this is the 80s again. So, this thing did happen. And it wasn't that busy a streets, I think. Anyone going down those streets probably lived there, and they slowed down for us, and, but it was the 80s. Again, no one cared. And so you'd fight all over the neighborhood. You couldn't go inside. You could be in the front yard, backyard, and run around the house, side houses. You can cut through, neighborhoods, houses in between the neighborhood. But it was one big block. And I think the ditches there, the boundary lines were kind of set forth. But on each corner, now one house wasn't exactly on the corner, but we called it a corner. It was probably about 2 houses down from the corner. And but we had garden hoses on each corner house. It was designated a garden hose. I remember one kid abandoned because he was kind of out. There's a little patch of woods by the corner, so he was the closest to the corner. But no one, the patch of woods, no one would go in. So we kind of steer clear from that because the cool thing was running around in between houses and running through people's backyard and whatnot. And so he didn't get much action in that last corner there. So I remember he would always give up very early on his water hose and just start joining in the fun. But the other 3 people really manned their garden hose the whole time because you fought a lot, especially around our house. That's where all the action was because there was a lot of kids just on our little street block. And but the water wars continued for most of the day, and you'd see who got the least, who got dry the most. And here was the secret for me. You were going to get hit by a water balloon. You were going to get teamed up by a bunch of people, and they were going to squirt water guns on you. So whenever I got hit, if it was early, I would run off and hide, and I'd sit out and dry out in the sun. I took off my shirt to dry it out because it was whoever was the driest. Whoever looked the driest won. And I can't remember, we'd have a mom come out, maybe, and judge who was the driest. And I remember I won one time, but I had gotten plastered with, I was soaking wet. My shoes were still wet. But I remember I set out my shirt to dry on the hot concrete sidewalk. And I remember wringing it out, and then flipping it over and letting it bake and just trying to dry off, like running around, just having the wind blow my shorts, drying out my shoes and socks. But I wanted to appear as dry as I could. And I was a little damp, but not that much, because the girl, I remember the mom, checking my shirt. And I was like, sorry, I got a little sweaty because I've been running around a lot. And my hair was matted down. You could see I was sweating. So she attributed it to sweat. She, I can feel it's very sweaty. And maybe it smelled too. Who knows? Maybe it really was sweat. But I was deemed the driest. And everyone was like, what? Because they knew that they pounded me earlier with water balloons and squirt guns. I remember it had two space guns. And I had a holdout in my sock, like a mini squirt gun. And I rarely got to use it. But if you were out, there were buckets in every kid's house. There was a bucket, like a big deep paint bucket or whatnot. Some kind of plastic big bucket where you could refill. And the mom, usually you filled it up with water from the outdoor hose. And so there was places to refill. But it was fair game if you were filling up if someone could hit you. So you had to be careful or have someone on your team guard you. Who made up the teams? I don't remember. I don't remember how that happened. But I remember it was a big epic water war once a year. It was a lot of fun. Talking about it, maybe I should have put it higher on this list. Number 4, one thing that me and my brothers love to do is hang out on the roof. We'd walk up on a roof, do running jumps and stances. We'd just hang out and read books. We used to read books or draw up on the roof. Because we just thought that was cool. That was our place. There was a tree that was just built for climbing, and it was almost like a ladder, straight up to the branches, every 4 feet or whatnot, right on the roof. Mom and Dad didn't mind. We never really hurt ourselves. But one of the things we liked to do was invite people over and have them drive up our driveway. And we're 16 by now, 16, 17. So we're asking our friends who can drive to come over, and of course they want to come over because they want to drive. So they're driving in their little Jeep or whatever. They're coming up the driveway, and the house had a lot of corners and whatnot, and ups and downs. And so we'd hide in one of the nooks, and it would be right as they would walk right underneath us to get underneath the garage to go in the back door, because we said come in the back door. And so we had this little sign on the garage, or at the top of the garage, that said look up. And when they'd look up, we'd pelt them. And we pelted one. We called one girl, pelted her. I remember we called my best friend Patrick at the time. Dude walked right past the sign. Like it almost brushed his head. He didn't even notice the sign. Knocked on the door. And we're like, wait, he didn't look up. And then he knocked on the door. And then was like, this is back before cell phones. He came back out. He is right underneath the sign. And he scratches his head like, wonder where they are. And kind of looks around because we didn't have cars either back then, so he didn't know. And then he kind of bumped his hand as he was scratching his head. It reached up on the sign, and he looked up and went, what's this? And he kind of looked at the sign, and then immediately, without looking up, he ran, made a beeline for his Bronco, and we started pelting it. We tried to pelt him, and he drove off. Oh man, those great times. Tricking people with water balloons when I am a teenager, close to graduating high school. There you go. Good time. Shows my maturity level too. Number 3 was when I first moved here to Louisiana. Floods happen all the time. I did not know this. We were not used to floods in Mississippi. And I remember this family, their house had flooded, and we were kind of helping them get stuff out. And their whole first floor was underwater just about. I mean, it was up to my chest, which back then was what, 4.5 feet, maybe 5 feet. I don't know. It was pretty deep. It was about 5 feet deep. And so anything downstairs is kind of ruined, but stuff on the high shelves in the kitchen and anything upstairs was okay. So everyone was wading into the water and grabbing stuff and just kind of, moving back and forth in and out. Well, as kids, we went in there and we were swimming, racing from the kitchen back to the living room, and and I thought it was so cool that their house was underwater. In fact, we went up the stairs and we did cannonballs from the staircase. We jump over the banister and do cannonballs and to the den. And I remember I was I was 13 back then, or was it? Yeah, I just turned 13. And I remember going up and telling the family, who were thanking everyone for, getting the stuff, helping get the stuff out of their house. I said, y'all have the coolest home ever. Like I'm soaking wet. They're probably devastated, right? I mean, years later, I remember I told, their name is the Spans, when they came here, I don't know, years ago, but it had been at least 2 decades since that event. And I remember apologizing. I said, look, I realized I said something very insensitive when we first moved here and we helped y'all bail out. She went, oh, honey, I didn't mind. You have to laugh or you're going to cry. She said, I was fine. But I don't remember. I was a kid. I don't remember what they were like because I remember just telling her, this is the coolest house ever. I thought I don't know what I was thinking. I guess they thought that they lived in the water, like their house was built in the water or something. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I was like a complete idiot. But doing cannonballs off the banister of the staircase, that's why it gets a number 3 spot here. Number 2, I have talked about this. One of the top 5 times I've been terrified. We were on a canoe trip. It was very, very high waters, kind of dangerous, and no one would let us on the river. Well, finally, we paid someone double to let us on there. And he went ahead and did it. He wasn't supposed to because the rapids could be dangerous. I don't remember what the levels were, but, it was the regular slope canoe trips, the rapids, if it's like a 8, 9, or 10, you could die, right? And these had 1s and 2s, like the most lamest ones. But because of the rushing rain and higher levels, they had raised up to, I don't know, 4s and 5s or something. And so they weren't prepared for that. And you could have it because you could get pulled under by the undertow. And so it was a little too not very dangerous, but we had told them we'd come there. We're expert canoers. We've done it all the time. So this guy went ahead and just let us on. We did pay extra, I remember. But we were the only ones allowed to go on, and we were having fun. We were the only ones there. It was pouring down rain. We were soaking wet, but we were just laughing, having a good time. And the rivers were just zooming. We were zooming down those rivers. And the rapids, which were like trickles back before, were actually really fun to navigate. And the water wasn't that deep in certain areas, or so we thought. And on one particular one, it was my fault, I think. I fishtailed us into a corner, and there was a mini whirlpool. That whirlpool sucked down the canoe. And it was super, and it almost sucked us down too. In fact, we grabbed a branch. We were kind of laughing, me and my buddy John, and we got sucked under again. I had to pull myself up on the branch, and we were like, whoa, like that was scary. And then we started laughing again, and then got up on the branch. It's like, where is that canoe? And I remember I went down holding onto the branch, and I got pulled under, and I'm 6'3", and I'm like sticking my feet as low as I can, and I can feel the tip of that canoe at the bottom of the river. I'm like, holy crow, that thing is in there deep. And I remember I crawled back up and told John, I said, we're going to have to swim for it. I don't know what we can do. And that canoe came out like Jaws. Something happened. It just burst out of the water. We screamed. I know what it was. And that thing hit the rapids and just zoomed off. And I was like, well, now we really got it. And I was thinking, man, we go down, because there's some rocks and, pretty dangerous stuff. I said, well, let's try to swim across, because the bank we were at was too steep. And across the river, we could have made it. So I jumped, started swimming, and then realized the current was just taking me away. And then that's when it hit me, a giant rock. I had bruises on my back. I hit that rock so hard. But thankfully, I was able to grab my footing and then grabbed John, who jumped and couldn't swim either because the current was too strong, grabbed him and pulled him, and we kind of made our way to shore. And eventually, people came back upriver to get us. They had to go to the side of the bank and stick their oars it took a long time, but they were sticking their oars into the riverbank there and just kind of slowly climbing up. And we swam down, or just kind of let the current carry us down to them. And then our canoe got caught on some kind of branch later on down the road, so we were able to grab it and dip it out and go again. But yeah, slightly dangerous with water. Fun story. Number one, though, and I know I've told this one, of course, it floods a lot in Louisiana, and one of the first apartments I had, one of my favorite apartments ever, it would flood. And it even said in the parking lot, this is a flood area. Please do not park your cars here during heavy thunderstorms. Well, there was no other parking, so a lot of people use that utility parking down there. I did too. However, if it rained, and if you had a brain, you knew to repark your car. So I got out, reparked my car, and it kept raining. And it rained so bad, it was flooding. And I looked down, because I was on the second floor, right outside that parking lot, and I looked down, I was like, whoa, I saw a lake. And I was like, check it out. And we all looked, and I was like, shut up. And I said, this is awesome. So I went and changed my swimsuit, ran down the slope, and did a head dive into the water, which was only 3 feet. Yup. I'm shocked it didn't crack open my head. I did scrape my arms up pretty bad because I went in head first. My hands caught the concrete first and kind of saved me from embarrassing myself. But, well, maybe it was 4 feet deep. But it was pretty shallow. Anyway, it was waist high. I'll say that. So it was waist high for me, which probably was about 4 feet maybe. I don't know, 3.5. Either way, though, I still thought it was cool. So then I went and got a shirt and got out my katana blade from Highlander. Yep, I have a katana blade from Highlander. And so I got in there, took off my shirt and had someone film me doing like a sword kata in the. I don't know why. Why? If lightning strikes that little pond, I'm a dead man. What is some doofus? I can only imagine. And by the way, that I'm done with college by now. I'm most likely not a college kid. If I recall, I think I'd already graduated at this point. I'm young to mid-20s, and I'm still a moron, swinging a blade in the middle of a flooded parking lot, and any one of my neighbors looking out the door and go, who am I living with? I mean, honestly, I bet they thought that. So I'm swinging, and someone's filming me too. And sadly, that footage is lost for all mankind. I really wish I had it to embarrass myself with. But I remember I had someone film me as I was doing it because I thought it was super cool. What am I, 12 still? Yes. But I remember doing that and having the best time. And I was thinking, this is the coolest day ever. At 23, 24, 25, who knew? You never grow up, right? So that's top 5 moments with water. Let's move on to fire, baby. Fire. Number 5, young memory, but me and my brothers kind of laugh about it. My brother was a big Winnie the Pooh fan, and as a mean-spirited joke, I don't remember what happened, but Pooh was next to the fireplace, and he caught on fire. And we thought that was the funniest thing ever because my little brother's like, Pooh, as he's on fire. My dad put him out really quick. Of course, he's kind of charred. And somehow, my mom repaired him. I mean, like, brushed out cut out the char, cleaned, put him in the laundry room, scrubbed him down, put him in the washer and dryer, and actually got to where he was a little gray, a little ashen on one side, like Two-Face. But that was my brother's favorite stuffed animal, or stuffed bear at the time. It was a little mini Winnie the Pooh. And that day Pooh caught on fire. I still love that day. Another one was, I used to, back in the day, backyard wrestling in the late 90s, early 2000s was a big deal. You'd look at the DVDs, the VHSs, you'd get a VHS of backyard wrestling. Everyone was doing backyard wrestling. I did backyard wrestling. In fact, I think I've said this, I still carry the belts. I am the hardcore champion. I've never lost the hardcore champion. The hardcore champion has to take the biggest bump. And so three times I defended it, I had to take the biggest risk. One was falling off a ladder through plywood. Sheetrock. Excuse me, it was sheetrock. I was scared to death too when I fell off the ladder because I thought, I didn't know where I was hoping I was falling down the sheetrock, but I thought I'd missed it, and I didn't. And then the second time was what? There was a stick, but we'd sawed it off a little bit, but you had to get cracked over the head with it, and it should snap. It had to be strong enough to still swing around, but it was gimmicked so that when it slammed down on someone's head, it would crack down on them. And so no one, I said, guys, this will, and I'd hit it against the house and it snapped right off, but we could swing around. But it looked like it was going to hurt. And I said, okay, who wants to do it? And no one wanted to do it. I even offered to put like a metal bucket over their head as we did it, but still no one wanted to do it. I said, well, screw it, I'll do it. And so I'm the one that got hit, and I honestly, it didn't really hurt that bad. It looked really awesome. And then the third one has to do with fire. This is probably the last time I defended the belt. No, I think the sheetrock was the last time I defended the hardcore belt. We lit a stick on fire with lighter fluid and swung it back and forth. Now, what they were going to do was put lighter fluid on me and then light me up, like drop the flaming stick on me. But what we had done is we had emptied out the lighter fluid and just replaced it with water. However, as I did it, someone says, hey, this still smells like lighter fluid. Did you get it all out? And I went, yeah, I dumped it all out and filled it up. I said, but did you wash it out? I went, no. They said, well, Matt, there's probably still lighter fluid in here. And then no one wanted to do it. Like my buddy who was going to win the hardcore said, I'm not doing it. I was like, dude. I said, fine, I'll do it, but I get to win it again. They said, fine. And as they lit the match and it dropped on me, I did think, this is a bad idea. Because I did smell a little bit like lighter fluid when they poured, and he poured it a lot on me. And but when he lit it, it just so happened that the match went out exactly as it hit me. Like as he dropped it, it just flickered out. And so it looked really great on film because we used to record all these. And I really wish we had I don't think I saved those wouldn't be on a VHS anymore. But I did have, years ago, I had VHSs converted to DVD, and I'm not sure if that was one of them, and I've lost those DVDs now. I'll have to, maybe they're in a closet somewhere, but I need to see if I can find those DVDs again, because I'd love to see if those DVDs captured in my backyard wrestling days. And that was a lot of fun, but it was really awesome. And by the way, I am still the world champion. The world champion went everywhere. There was a world champion in Virginia and Detroit and Canada. I think the world champion went to California. This is because we would meet up at a summer camp and give it and designate the fight to one of the kids there. And so it would stay for them for another year unless they visited someone, and then it got to move around. Well, it finally came back to Monroe, and I challenged the guy who I beat. I went to Detroit, and he was the one that built it for me as a cardboard belt with tape on the back. I still have them in the trunk of my car because that was the rule. You had to keep them in the trunk of your car. And I still have mine because at any time, anywhere, someone can challenge me for the belt. And there were several times the last time we ever was planning on doing it was I wanted to lose the hardcore match in Branson, Missouri, because someone had a fake ring. And I said, dude, I would totally drop the world belt. He went, dude, I want that hardcore belt, because he knew that no one had beat me for the hardcore. I was like, you can have it. You can have that or the world championship. Because, it was, we didn't mind passing around. I was proud that thing had been passed around so many times, the world championship had. The tag team championship is owned by two girls. We thought it'd be funny to have the tag teams beat by two girls. One of them I still talk to, and she says they have the belt still. They both kept their belts. They still have them. They're in an attic though, but they still have them. And what was the other thing? And then the light heavyweight, the last time it was won was in Canada. Or no, the Canadian was here and he won it, and I doubt he still has the light heavyweight championship. But those were the belts. We had 4 belts: hardcore, world, light heavyweight. Because we did a light heavyweight for him. I was making fun of him because he was a lightweight, and he faced like my little brother. It was like a mini. We used to wrestle on trampolines a lot, but we had a lot of mini exercise trampoline, and I had them do a mini match on the mini trampoline. It was just really stupid. So he probably just threw it away afterwards. But I still have the belts today. But anyway, that dropping that match on me was a little bit frightening at first. Anyway, number 3. A long time ago, I used to work for a land surveyor, and we cut in line in the middle of the summer in Louisiana. Not cool, man. And I remember one time the guy gave us a bulldozer. He said, well, if I get a bulldozer, will that help you? And I was like, yeah. So we were pushing that bulldozer through the underbrush. Well, something happened. It overheated, and it was catching fire and exploded. I mean, he got off as it catching fire. As it caught fire, he says, oh, man. He said, we need to still get a reading. You need to go down. And I thought he was kidding. I said, we're going to wait for this thing to blow up, aren't we? He went, because it had started, it was a little bit on flames, but it hadn't hit the gas tank yet. He went, no, man, we need to take that now because we need to go. We can't sit around any longer. So I remember I had to sit by a burning bulldozer, and every once you hear the because I thought that thing was going to explode. I thought I'm going to die. And you have to hold the staff really steady, and I was shaking so bad. He went, quit shaking through the radio. I was like, dude, I'm just take it and run. And he goes, okay, I got it. And I took off running, and right before I made it to him, that thing blew up. And I was he was laughing the whole time. He thought it was the funniest thing. He went, dude, that 30 more seconds, you'd have been cooked. I'd have to tell Mr. Lawson, who was our boss, we need to get a new hand out here. And I was like, that is not funny. I was pissed. The bulldozer on fire. There you go. Fire story. Number 2. I've told this story. I think I've told this story before. Bruce from Prince of the Universe we used to be roommates. We were spraying hairspray over a candle. This is back when we were early in college days, and we were just making our own little flamethrower. After it was over, Bruce wipes up the rag that's dripping in hairspray, and we thought it'd be funny to put that on the candle, see what happened. Of course, it created a fireball. We launched the fire. Bruce threw the fireball away. It sailed across the room and caught the carpet on fire. I then got a pillow and smothered it. But then there was a huge burn hole in the carpet. Like not a cigarette burn, a burn hole. We're like, oh no. Because, there goes our deposit. So what we did is we moved the couch over it. And the couch was the worst spot ever. It was right in front of the hallway. So when you exited the hallway, you had to move around the couch. It was terrible. Like we weren't fooling anyone. And when our third roommate, Roger, came by, Roger, if you're listening, this is the story I wanted to tell when you were here this past Christmas. Roger came in, and I remember going, guys, why do you have the couch back? And we like it here. And he's like, well, move it away from the hallway. No, it's good here. It's good here. Roger, it should stay here. And Roger moved it and saw it and looked. He went, well, there goes our deposit. We all kind of laughed because we had told him what had happened. Now, I believe I may have told that story with Bruce before here on Prince of the Universe, but not here on Saturday morning. Samoflange, but that's the hairspray candle story, which I still think is funny today. And my buddy Roger, my old roommate Roger, was here not too long ago for Christmas, and I asked if he wanted to do a podcast, and he didn't really feel like talking. So anyway, number 1, New Year's Eve, I was in high school. I was maybe 14, 15, and they had a big old bonfire, and the adults would go, kind of toast around the bonfire and then go inside where it was warm, where we played Firecracker Wars. Yep, blowing each other away with Roman candles and bottle rockets, and no one cared. It was the 90s, baby. And one of the things we also did, we would jump over the bonfire. And we'd jump and do cool karate poses, or we would shoot a Roman candle as we were going over, or shoot a bottle rocket out as we were jumping over the fire. All these stupid things that stupid kids do when they're stupid. And we did another cool thing. We did synchronized jumping. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, and all jump at different times and call out numbers. 1, 2. Someone go 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's when we take off jumping. And that way we barely would miss each other jumping. It looked really cool. Well, me and my buddy Patrick got the one who I hit with water balloons. We got our signals matched up on who was number 3 or 4, and we jumped at the same time, collided, and fell into the fire. I fell backwards, so I fell legs first. My legs, my jeans and everything were in. He fell face first. We both got pulled out. He had to go to the hospital for minor burns all over his body. Me, didn't have a single burn. My jeans were burnt. They were on fire. Someone put them out. It had burned my jeans, but not really me. It felt like a bad sunburn on me. It had melted my shoes, so I couldn't wear my shoes because the soles were melted. And again, I was so lucky to escape with just minor burns. But like I said, Patrick had to go to the hospital. But I remember I had to strip down, and I'm in whitey-tighties, folks, it was the 90s, and I'm in whitey-tighties, and I was so embarrassed. I had to go to the car. It was freezing cold, sit in the car. Mom and Dad are pissed, but I'm embarrassed too because everyone's laughing because they saw me in my whitey-tighties, and I thought I'll never live this down, and now years later, I bet no one remembers that story. But Patrick does. But no one else would remember that. But I remember being super embarrassed over that. So that's my number 1 fire story there. So there's my top 5 stories concerning fire and water, or water and fire. I'm not going to do wind and rain or whatnot because it gets lame after that. I did think about wind for a minute and earth. do all earth elements, but that's just dumb, so I'm not going to do that. But anyway, let me know in the comments below any memorable moments concerning water or fire. I'd love to hear about them. Even though I don't comment on them all the time, I do love reading them. And I will see you next time on Saturday morning Samoflange.